What's a red flag when looking for a job? A former coworker shared this tidbit with me years ago and it works wonders. Try to schedule your in-person interview as late in the afternoon as possible. Relevant to your position. If you're expecting a 9-to-5 job, schedule your interview for 4:00 or 4:30. You probably discussed after-hours work etc. during the interview. When you are done, you should be able to look around. Are people still working? Is the parking lot empty? You can match up the evidence with what was claimed during the interview and from that, judge how realistic the entire job description is based on how they treated the after-hours work. Just make sure there isn't a staggered schedule or multiple shifts. Most of my positions are listed from 8 to 4:30, but about half the office works 6 to 2:30 or 9 to 5:30. Then since most of my salary guys want to climb the ladder and appear busy, they stick around for 15 to 20 minutes to leave after their bosses. This doesn't work for all industries. And of course, you're sacrificing a key advantage by picking your time right, usually around noon 1:00. You avoid workday burnout or the early morning forgettable hours of a job. You're much more memorable if the person interviewing you is already warmed up for the day, but not anticipating heading home. This is genius. If you ask them what the pay is and they start off with what you could be making after so much time and they start rambling about the raise process, run the other way. High staff turnover. There's a place near me that's always hiring high-level tech folks. And I mean, always. Just makes me think. Meat grinder. Probably pays an absolute killing, but you're chained to your work laptop 24/7. Possibly. The place I work at now doesn't pay a killing and does not chain you to a laptop. From the outside it seems like a regular job. But the entire company focuses on management to a fault. Highly qualified technical staff end up leaving because they have held back good solutions until they can convince a mammoth management chain to make the case for the solution to the client. Being extremely metric-focused, they can show all green reports. But in actual practice most things should be yellow. I have been a consultant for 17 years. I have never worked at such a slow pace. Looking for rock stars in the job description. Unless of course the posting is in fact for a position to be a rock star. Similarly, ads that read along the lines of, "Do you like sports? Come be a part of our team. We're laid back and have fun. We want all of our MVPs to succeed. So we work hard. And we play hard too." If they're trying to sell you on the work environment in the ad, most of the time, you should run. I'm sure there are exceptions. But most of the time, you can substitute rock stars and sports and MVPs in all these ads interchangeably, with all of it loosely translating to, "We're gonna load a bunch of you up in a van at the BT crack of dawn to drop in neighborhoods for door-to-door cold call selling cutlery." An employer who treats you like they are doing you a favor. With good servant leadership it should be the other way around. An unclear job description, or a job description that includes too many duties. Not being offered the opportunity to see the working areas or talk to people who would be your peers. Just generally trying to feel out whether or not they have things under control or not. I don't want to walk into AST show when they talk previous employees. They're going to do it to you. Same goes for them insulting current employees behind their back. I saw that during my orientation. 2 supervisors were loudly talking about how useless an employee was after they got off the phone with him. Even if it's true, the fact that they don't care who hears them is a sign of a toxic work environment. Typical behavior of managers who like to deflect blame for their own mistakes onto employees. Basically a symptom of a terrible boss. My bosses do this. The smell of the last guy hadn't even left the building before they just started SG all over him. Funny thing is, he was easily one of the best employees in the department and rose accordingly. They immediately started talking about how much he sucked and all that the second he left the group. Now, how do you think that makes those of us struggling to climb the ladder? To even get noticed for non-payroll advancements. Feel. Yeah. I'm currently job hunting. I got a call from a Subway I applied to telling me my interview was in 10 minutes. That was the first I heard from them after submitting my application. So, years ago, my old company was hiring a mechanical engineer job. But the director of the department suddenly had a family emergency and had to go out of town the next day. They called the last applicant and said, "Can you come in and interview?" Like now. The candidate explained that he was out and about and couldn't get dressed or anything. The director basically said, "Don't care." That's how the dude that got the job got to interview in a black band t-shirt and ripped jeans. So, before you red flag it, make sure that a sudden interview isn't warranted. They did this kind of poor scheduling to the newest guy in my department. Except it was more like, "Hey, we want to interview you. But the only openings in all 3 of our schedules are 3 hours from now. 2 days from now. Or maybe next week." He chose the 3 hours and 8 months later is one of our best employees. The only red flag there is that the upper management is always busy. But if you hate micromanagement, it's perfect. I hate micromanagement. I'd say I thrive when I'm not monitored. But I probably work the same and am just happier about it. Making jokes about overtime and crunch time. Guaranteed it's going to be a nights and weekends are optional. But not actually optional. Place. I went to an interview where the guy said, "We don't end the day until everyone is done." And sometimes that takes another hour on a busy day. Then my genius brain said, "Yay, I don't want to work constant overtime." What was I thinking, expecting to go home when my contract says I go home? In reality, maybe an hour overtime can easily turn into 2 hours overtime every day. Having to pretend this is normal is toxic AF. When I was a GM for Chipotle, I would constantly work 12-plus hour days. Salary. And one busy weekend I worked 15 hours on Friday and 15 on Saturday, and on Sunday I decided to go to the gas station and eat my donuts in my car and just listen to the radio for like 10 extra minutes to just kind of unwind. You better believe the area manager was there the next day with a write-up in hand because I was 10 minutes late on Sunday, but when I asked what about the other 10 extra hours I put into my store the previous days. That's just part of the job description. That's FG disgusting. Hope you're in a better spot now, friend. Earning potential is stressed over current salary. In 5 years you can be making X. Cool. Add that to my offer as guaranteed and we have a deal. Well, it's not guaranteed. Oh, gotcha. So what you're saying is that statement holds no value. You know, while you're working here, there's an opportunity to work hundreds of millions of dollars if you play the lottery. Lol. Similar thing I experiences. I wanted 2x and they were at X for salary. But with X you'll have room to grow. I'd rather get paid a fair market wage and be stagnant than underpaid with some arbitrary growth potential. We are a family here, which means this is how they try to make up for the shitty pay and long hours. This is the one I was looking for. Yes, it's a family in the sense that the company expects me to be willing to do anything to help you and your company anytime. Anywhere. Anyhow. You and your brothers and sisters, aka the other overworked, unappreciated peons, are conditioned to work harder to help each other out. Quote, the problem there is that the only people who benefit are the people at the top. It's essentially a predatory practice designed to force extra effort out of you by abusing your empathy and your connection to your coworkers. Johnny McCorporate fuckbag literally wouldn't flinch if you dropped dead at your desk from the stress. He would just be PD at the loss of output and immediately be concerned with finding a new cog for the machine he calls a family. Or if a prospective employer ever says, "We're like a family here," what they mean is they're going to ruin you psychologically. Just like my real family. Hiring lots of people on the same position. Everyone who calls gets a job. Often means the job is either bullshit or they're setting you all up to compete for the actual job. I had this once. Turned out it was commission only. Door-to-door vacuum sales. I did that for a month. My breaking point was when I was told I couldn't carry any water with me in what is essentially desert climate in middle of summer. Was told to request a glass of water from random strangers. Same if I needed to use the bathroom. I wound up so parched I was risking real dehydration, and the other salespeople had the nerve to drink all my water. Oh. And I sold a grand total of 3 vacuums. I actually has 5 sales. But I quit on a Friday, and by Monday they claimed my last 2 sales were cancelled and I now owed them something like $150 for accessories. Convinced them to zero out my entire account and just close it. That can't be legal. Specifically limiting somebody's access to water? It's illegal in my state not to let employees or anyone not have water. If the job description has about 20 items of which one is sales, your job is going to be sales. Similarly, other duties as needed can translate to sales. Happened to me in a job that I was doing digital marketing for. They wanted me to do sales-related tasks as well. I said that's not my job. They pointed out that line in my job description and said I need to improve my attitude and do it or give them notice of my departure. I told them thanks. I'll be gone in 30 days. And mentioned if they want sales to be done then hire someone for the role. That is not what I signed up for nor want to do. They were surprised. And within a month after I left they hired a director of sales. They didn't have one previously. Super high turnover rate there too. The terrible part of not having defined roles and departments in a company is when one job overlaps. I.e., sales with customer service or marketing with sales. Then the managers usually expect you to meet your marks on one end while being able to do the other job just as well. You made a good choice. Hope you are doing much better now. If the job description has multiple items, then the majority of your duty is going to be the worst one of those items. Manager who doesn't really interview you or who doesn't take the interview seriously. They are on their phone the whole time. Don't ask any questions. Are too casual. When they do this most of the time it means they will hiring anyone showing up to the interview. Or it means they're promoting someone internally and you got screwed by being the rondo external candidate from having to post the job. This exactly is what happened to me. AE showed up late then played on his phone most of the time and asked me bullshit questions. They already had someone lined up. Couple of things. Open interviews. Admittedly I've fallen for this a few times but I was young and stupid. It's clear they have a high turnover so they're trying to secure as many people as they can. Most of the time these open interview jobs don't have salaries. Just commission. Refusal or reluctancy to share details over the phone. This is what usually ends up in you turning up to an open interview. If they withhold information about the role, what you'll be doing etc., that's a huge red flag. They just want to get you in the door for an interview to pressure you into joining. I've been seeing this a lot. What is an open interview? You're being interviewed with like 10 other people at the same time. Oh wow, this clears a lot. I thought this meant it's a red flag when they accept open applications. So you can just apply even if there is no specific position open. This was a red flag I had during an interview process once. I was doing a phone interview for an IT position and the person I was interviewing with basically changed the details of the job during the interview. Instead of the first shift hours the position promised, he immediately went into saying it would be 6+ months before the opportunity for first shift would even be a possibility. Also, he was big into asking how dedicated I was to jobs. The idea of weekend shifts, again, not in the original description, kept coming up, and how everyone had to be a team player and help out on weekends when needed. The kicker was when he started talking about how many hours he worked. He was bragging that he was up at 6 a.m. every day working. Then he'd go into the office for the day, come home to see his family for dinner, and get right back to work until 10 to 11 p.m. every night. I had never been turned off from a job faster in my life. He asked me to think things over and he'd send me some paperwork via email. Needless to say, I called him the next morning and declined the job. It was the worst interview process I'd ever been in. I had a potential employer brag to me about their hours too. Yeah, technically the hours are 9 to 5, but everyone in the office is here by 7 a.m. and we typically don't leave until 9 or 10 p.m. And was trying to spin it as, look at us and how motivated we are. Quote, look at me. I'm a happy slave. I'm in IT as well. Some of the interviews I had before landing my current job were very similar. Had one interview where the manager belittled one of the techs just before he walked into the room. Probably didn't realize the door was open lol. I'm really lucky though since my current position is awesome. I work with some really friendly people. It's a small company and that's what I prefer. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.